Welcome to the Cartoon Network Lego Building Future Fans panel. If you look up on your screens or look in your apps, you can see who's on the panel and their titles. They are here to my left. And we also have with us, we're lucky to have Chris with us, who's a master builder. Chris will be building today as sort of a metaphor for how these two companies, Cartoon Network and Lego, have been building together over the last several years. These two companies have innovated together and worked in really interesting ways and built a lot of different things together. That's the topic of this panel. And what do these two companies need to do in this disruptive future to build future fans? All right? But before we start, that's who we are. We'd love to get a sense of who you guys are in the audience. So let me just, with a show of hands, if you could just identify yourself this way. Who here works in media? Oh, lots. Okay. Wow. Who here works in tech? That might also be media. Fantastic. Okay, who works in kids? Oh, good. Who here is here to protest this panel? Oh, get him out. Punch him in the face. All right. Awesome. All right. Oh, my God. Okay. These two companies build really unique things together. And we partner in a way that a toy company and networks don't always typically work. And here at South by, it's about this kind of connectivity. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk about a little bit about why there's such a shared connection between these two companies. Mike, why do you think it works between Cartoon Network? Or describe the relationship between our companies and why you think it works, maybe.
I would say that there's really, really good alignment in the values and the philosophies between our companies. At Lego, we try to be a pretty purpose-driven company, and we have a mission, which is to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. And you can say, well, every company's got a mission, but do they really live it? Well, we happen to be a privately held, family-owned company, and have the luxury of having an ownership that is way more focused on the impact that we have in the world than just simply how much money we're making for them. And so it is a very strong intent for us to be very purpose-driven around that. So we tend to work best with partners who are fully aligned with that. And we have several sort of underlying principles underneath that mission, but there are two in particular that also help define or determine the best companies for us to partner with. One is this notion that children are actually our role models. It's not just, of course, children consume our products, but there's also something that's naturally curious, creative, and imaginative about kids that, for whatever reason, as they age, kind of all that gets sucked out of them. And we need to continually remind ourselves about what it was like to be a kid and how do we instill that same way of working, not only for ourselves, but also that helps inform the best partners to work with are also those who can remind us that children should be our role models. The second thing, though, too, that we learned the hard way is that we really need to be much more stakeholder-focused than focused on ourselves. So and the reason I say we learned this the hard way is that about 12 years ago, we went through a really, really tough time. We almost went bankrupt as a company, and a whole ton of reasons for that, but probably one of the more pressing reasons was we were super insular. We really weren't focused on other people, and part of our turnaround strategy was more geared around how do we focus on doing the right thing by consumers, by our business partners, like our media partners, our retail partners, our employees, and society at large. So Jill and I have a bonus structure where when you take a look at all of the performance metrics that we have that make up our bonus, 80% of them are geared around metrics that assess how well we actually deliver against those four stakeholders. And only 20% is based on how much money we make as a company. And the philosophy around that is, if we do right by all those stakeholders, the financial part's going to take care of itself. And so we go into partner relationships, as an example, very much focused on mutual value creation. Because that's really, at the end of the day, the only way that you can have sustainable partnerships is if there's obviously mutual value being created there, and one group isn't getting the edge on the other. So again, having partners who also share that same philosophy is also super helpful. And I would say that when you look at our mission and then those two core philosophies, there's no better partner for us in terms of alignment with them than Cartoon Network.
And we like to all have a laugh, too.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Clearly. All right, so I'll call you guys out on this one. So you're the world's most popular toy company. You have a hit movie. They don't like to watch. They cringe when I say this stuff. Watch. Look at they can't deal with it. They've had a hit TV show with us. You guys are pathologically humble as a company. Why do you think that is? Is it because you're from Denmark, or because the company literally burned to the ground 3 times? How many times did this company burn to the ground? It did.
3. Yeah.
3 times. Lego burned to the ground 3 times. Cartoon Network has never yet burned to the ground. We do have hoverboards that I'm nervous about exploding. But so where is the humility? Is the humility part of your core DNA? I think it is, but what do you think?
Very much so, and I think it does come from our Danish culture. I've worked with the Danes. I'm an honorary Dane, I would say. I know there's some Danes in the room. You can say whether I qualify yet after 28 years with Lego. But it is very much, there's something, and I'm not going to pronounce it right, Danes, I'm sorry, but Jandelo in the Danish culture, that nobody is really better than anybody else. And that really permeates everything that we do and our approach and to our partners and to also really looking towards kids and really taking cues from them. So it is very much a cultural thing. Even within Lego in a Hollywood context, I think we try to retain that humility.
Great. Tram, Cartoon Network it's been around 25 years next year.
Yes.
You've been with it for a very long time, I know, and done very important things there. What's your relationship and the network's relationship to understanding what kids think and what they do? How does that animate what you do?
You know, I think what's interesting is, so all of those kids that did not have all of the creativity and joy sucked out of them, they all work for us, including some executives. We have this amazing studio, which you're seeing some images of right now. We are probably, more than any other network, the most artist-driven. Creators are at our core of everything that we do. It is creative first, corporate a far distant fifth a lot of the times. And I think because of the energy and everything that they have and that we're surrounded by every day, they're not that far removed from our audience in a lot of ways. And so we have sort of people that just in many ways naturalistically kind of know how to create content that speaks to our audience and speaks to more than just our core audience because of the creativity and the imagination that they bring.
Great. So, and what kind of person works at Lego? Is there a type of person that works there, or does it vary by geography, or what sorts of jobs are there even at Lego? How's that?
There are a lot of jobs open right now because we're fortunate to be in a pretty good growth mode. And they're obviously all over the map as it relates to creative roles or analytical roles, supply chain roles, et cetera. But I would say that what tends to work, picking up on what Jill was saying, the people who tend to do pretty well at Lego are the people who are more focused on other people than on themselves. So it's really a question of, your equity within the company is more driven by how well do you deliver for consumers, for partners, for other employees, et cetera. And it's not about you, really.
Wow. Sounds great. Okay, so it seems like we have similar cultures, right? And our bricks fit together well. Why don't we describe for people the journey that we've been on and sort of what we've been working on together and how it started. So Mike, it started as a traditional kind of client network relationship,
Yep.
right? So what were some of your first interactions with us, and what were they around?
Well, I think we started in a similar way that most consumer packaged goods start with media companies, which is, okay, we need to reach some people. You got some media time, and so let's transact. And that was kind of it for many years. But then I think the more that you start to work together as companies, you realize, wow, there's a shared culture, shared values. There's a lot of really cool stuff. There are people who think like kids, and they're really creative and curious. And so that's when I think it started to evolve to a better and more interesting place, where it's like, okay, well, what more could we do together than just buy and sell advertising? And that's where Jill's team got involved, and maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah. No, I think it's been quite an interesting journey in terms of how we got into the whole content space, and it wasn't necessarily something where Lego had an aspiration to become an entertainment company. I think if you talk to our senior management right now, they would tell you that's not our aspiration. What we're really focused on is delivering compelling, creative experiences to kids and families. And we realized, really by listening to our fans, that there was a big appetite for Lego content. They started just creating it themselves, and that's what we took our cues from. If you go on YouTube, Lego is one of the most prevalent things on YouTube. I'm sorry if I said YouTube in the panel.
That's fine. Just
but
don't say GoDaddy.
no. But we really kind of looked at that, and we weren't even sure at first whether we could sustain, a longer narrative. And we found that kids absolutely loved it. So we started slowly. We do things conservatively as a company. We started with doing one little special. One piece of content for a theme we were launching called Lego Atlantis. So this was our very first piece of long-form content, as we call it internally. And our goals was really to try to link that idea of character and story much more strongly to a Lego creative experience. So I think we have a little clip.
Yeah,
we
we do have a clip.
Show a little
Yeah,
clip
absolutely.
Of this.
Here's a clip of Atlantis.
Oh. Of course, a giant squid. Whoa, hey! I have an idea. Get to the caves. Yeah! Hey! Yeah! Smile. Say ink.
So you see in that a few little bits of things that have really become cornerstones of Lego content, the whole humor aspect, and we really try to present things in a creative, humoristic way, and we've really built that into everything that we did going forward. But I will be honest and say when I first sat down with the folks at Cartoon, they weren't totally sure, but what really kind of sealed the deal was a personal experience that one of the executives had with the brand. So Adina Pitt has a son who has grown up playing with Lego, and that really made a huge difference because she really understood the value that Lego brings beyond the entertainment value, but just how the interaction with the brand, the experience that they have playing with the product really enriches their lives as children. So she really saw it and she got it right away and was very supportive. And we convinced Rob Swartzer, her boss, along the way, and he's become a big fan as well. But
What was Rob's quote around that time?
I think around that time I kind of pitched, like, wouldn't it be cool to do a whole, like, a Lego day on Cartoon Network? And I think he was like, you're out of your mind, Jill, like, that will never happen. So we've evolved a bit from that original standpoint, and it's, overall, the Cartoon team has been just fantastic supporters of what we're doing and giving us great input, because this was new for us. And again, we approached things very humbly, and we came in like, you tell us, like, what could we be doing differently? How should we really attack this? And people like Tram have been really supportive and really given us some great guidance along the way. So I think that was a key lesson for us, like finding the right people and the most talented people and getting them involved in what we were doing early on.
It's amazing. What other skills did you need to have within your company that you didn't know you needed to have at that point? There's storytelling skills. There's all kinds of different skills. You need production skills. CG. It's really complex. How hard was it to convince the company to go there? Was it easy? Did they give you the experiment? Does the play of Lego translate into the culture there?
Yeah, yes and no. I'd say it took a little convincing, but what we did is we took it stages. We took it in stages, and we kind of figured out was it going to work to a certain extent, and then we really got the support behind it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then the next big project we worked on together was Ninjago. How many people have seen Ninjago? Yes. So Ninjago is a smash hit show for Lego. I guess let's have a look for those who have not seen seen it.
Just became our roommate.
We're going to start that over because you missed the setup.
Eye on him. Mia, the Lord of Darkness just became our roommate. What's he eating? Condensed evil. Supposed to be low in fat. He's not even playing the game right. He's just shooting and destroying things.
I've noticed when he isn't so focused on trying to turn Ninjago into his own image, he's actually quite fascinating.
Sure, the forearms are freakish, but all in all, he doesn't seem that bad of a guy.
He might be pulling the wool over all your eyes, but not mine. He's up to something, and I'm gonna be ready for it.
So that's Ninjago. Ninjago was an enormous hit. And given your guys' humility, were you high-fiving in the audience, or in the office during this? Or what's the reaction internal to Lego when that thing started to work?
We actually almost canceled the whole thing after a year because we originally didn't intend necessarily to create such a phenomenon. And the way our cycles work is about also bringing new things to kids. So there was a point where we were canceling the toys and the TV show. That was pretty early on in the process. So.
Tram, toy shows that are based on toys historically have not performed the best.
Right.
What makes this one different, and how involved did the studio need to be in giving notes to Lego, or was it just a hit from the beginning, or what was the process, and why is it different from anything else?
I think in a lot of ways, and I think this is an across-the-board thing that at Cartoon Network we try to do in general, is I think what Ninjago did and sort of came out of the gate first was a trend that was happening, or a change that was happening in the way kids were perceiving these types of shows. I think that we all know in the 80s there was a very toy-driven sort of idea of how that worked. I think in the 90s there was this, and for a little while after, there was this thing of taking cute things and making them horrible and hardcore. It's like, it's puppies and kittens, but they're extreme. And then this amazing thing happened where suddenly things that were tough and hardcore started aesthetically getting smaller and cuter and more graphic and more specific, but without losing any of the wish fulfillment or the escapism of being ninjas or being heroes. And I think Ninjago was a really good example of how that trend was changing, because that is a very funny clip, but I think if you talk to kids, they're just as compelled with the storyline and just as compelled with the stakes and with the adventure of it as much as the comedy. And I think that is the new trend now, and not just a trend. I think it's a permanent thing that kids definitely want some lightness and stylistically something that feels a little more humorous, mixed in with really compelling characters and storyline, and that's what this show did.
Great. All right, so we didn't really set out to create a hit show together, but there it was, and then you guys canceled it, so thanks.
It's back.
It's back. And then, Tram, I remember you guys going to Denmark and having a next phase in our relationship. Why don't you describe a trip to Denmark and what you guys stumbled on there?
So we had an opportunity to go to Billund and go to the Lego headquarters in the Lego factory, which is awesome. There's a giant river of Legos. There's a room where you can eat every Lego. I'm sorry, that's a different factory. It was really cool, and again, at this point, I think we had a really strong relationship with them and they with us, and we were in a room talking about different things, and somebody said, "Hey, can we show you this thing that we're just kind of have this idea for this thing?" And they brought out this, again, very early stages, very nascent in its development, but it was this notion of getting away from the minifig idea and actually creating characters out of Legos, which we, with kind of googly eyes on their heads. And we took to it immediately, and we said, this is something we'd like to talk to you guys about maybe more. In a aggressively short amount of time, we went from just, we'd like to talk about it, to talking about it, to doing it, to producing it. And producing it in a way that was very different than how we normally produce things, which is let's develop a series and then everything follows after. It was a true multi-platform development.
All right, so
idea.
describe the property. Here it is here. Has anyone seen this? It's Mixels. So Mike, can you describe what this is? Or,
Sure.
yeah.
So essentially, I don't know if we have some photos of the actual products, but there are Lego elements here where you can actually build the characters and in different forms and fashions. But the beauty of it is that because it's Lego, you can actually mix and match the different elements to create other new characters with different powers and things like that. So the whole idea is around mixing characters, hence the name. And this gives you a little bit of an idea as to, how the characters translate into toys. So you can see that even visually, my sense is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tram, but when the folks from Cartoon Network saw this stuff in Denmark, they immediately saw an aesthetic there that felt very Cartoon Network-ish. So there's been a very good synergy there as it relates to the product experience and the show experience, and then also the digital experience.
So we had 12 months, you guys, to make this. Let's describe for people what the elements of it were. What was it exactly?
Lots and lots and lots of phone calls
Yes.
at weird hours of the day for somebody in some part of the world. So no, I would have to say the team at Cartoon Network was absolutely fantastic in working with us. And what was really refreshing was how much they understood what our goals and objectives were for this, and they really took that on board. And everything from the names, the descriptions of the characters, was a fully integrated. I don't think we've ever worked with another company in such a fashion, and that went so smoothly. So I think it was really something. It would have never happened, I think, if both companies were not fully on board in the same way. So.
And actually, I think there's a really interesting dynamic that goes on in these discussions, because oftentimes it's like, well, are you guys getting enough out of this? Are we really hitting the objectives of you? And then likewise on the other side, are you guys getting it?
Yeah, it's Chip and Dale. It's no, you first.
Right,
No,
yeah.
you first.
So, anyway.
So this was it was toys within a year. It was a series of shorts in a year. It was an app, a game app in a year, and a website, and branding and packaging and toy spots that we all jointly made together. Why did we think, I guess you just gave the reason of why we thought it could happen in a year. Why did we pick a year? That's the real question. Tram, have you ever worked on a project this quick before?
No, never. And again,
And you're dying to do it again.
Yeah, actually, well, I was going to say, and it actually ended up being one of the most fun things that I've ever worked on because of the time. It was an interesting process because, like I said, we went from just kind of talking about it to really engaging in it. And so one of the first things that we had to do was bring artists in that we thought would be right for the project. And we didn't really want to tell them exactly what it was yet, people in the studio, but eventually we had to start giving more detail. And we said, well, we're working with another company on this. And generally artists that, could maybe be put off by that, but we did say it was Lego, and people were like, Lego? Because you go to any of the artist spaces in our studio, and there's Lego stuff. It's, these are for a lot of these artists, this was one of their first ways they created was with Lego. So everybody was really excited to work on it. And there was this, again, even though this was a partnership, keeping artists at the center, it was really sort of this open door of what would you do with this? How would you develop this? What would you create around this? And we got back some amazing stuff that we didn't necessarily could use or wasn't quite right for what we were doing.
Yeah, here,
but it was.
I'll show some concept art, and we can. Chris, you're getting pretty far along there. Let's see. You have 37 minutes, Chris.
So at one point we had this notion that Mixels were these creatures that came from the ground. And with a sort of a live action blend. So John Fang, who was the artist here, actually took live pictures, and added characters into it. And I think so this notion that, this digging in the earth. And again, this isn't necessarily part of we don't say put live action plates. So this is this idea of there's a Lego layer in the earth that gets dug through at one point. But again, this is just this very open door idea of just create and give us great ideas. And there was no There was no mistake. There's a philosophy at Cartoon Network, and I say at Turner Networks in general, of less fear, more fun. And I think that this project was absolutely that, because even though there was this deadline, it made everybody much more creative. It made everybody a lot more engaged, and there were no bad ideas. It was all great ideas and brainstorming that we were able to put together to create the final idea of Mixels. So yeah, it'd be fun to do something like this again in that time.
Mike, we had a question about marketing to kick us off a little while ago. What do we point to marketing-wise, partnership-wise, or kind of content marketing? That's a buzzword today.
Yeah.
Why don't you describe for people what we do in that space?
I think what I appreciate most about the partnership is that everything starts with how do we help kids? And I'm not just sucking up on this. I mean, you guys do a really good job of saying, okay, what makes kids tick, and how can we improve their lives? And so much of it starts with that, rather than, okay, well, we got some ad space that we can sell you, or there's this digital stuff that we can sell you, or whatever. And in particular, I think there was an acknowledgement that Lego may have a profile that's a little different from some of the traditional advertisers, in the sense that, we're fortunate to have a very loyal following. We have content that tends to resonate with kids. And so there's a highly customized approach that Cartoon Network took, I think, with Lego, with that in mind, to say, let's kind of, break through the mold to say, how do we add more value together to kids? And so the marketing wasn't just, hey, we had a cool TV spot. There was, hey, you know what? We need to kind of engage kids digitally as things were sort of moving along in the digital space. Okay, well, why don't we have, and this actually came up in some brainstorming, a Lego portal on CartoonNetwork.com. Never had been done before with any other advertiser. But there was a feeling that, wow, we could definitely benefit from that in terms of being able to reach new audiences beyond our own touch points. But, and with the content that tended to really seem to engage a lot of kids and resonate with kids. But by the same token, Cartoon Network knew that it needed to draw an audience and needed to drive strong engagement numbers. So just with that out-of-the-box thinking, it was like, okay, well, hey, we can help each other here and totally break the mold on the typical marketing model.
Here, we can have a look at that portal if we change off Chris, who's flying. This is like Leroy Neiman during the Olympics, if you're old enough to know what I'm talking about. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so essentially this is a portal that features all kinds of content. It's video content, it's gaming content, it's pretty regularly refreshed, and it's pretty deep. It's quite engaging. So that, again, kind of broke the mold for both of us in terms of marketing. Another part of it is we've got a lot of our own touch points within the Lego realm. We have a magazine that goes out to a few million kids every other month. We've got a lot of other elements of our touch points, our event marketing and things like that, where we were like, well, why can't we help Cartoon Network drive ratings and drive viewership among our audience? And so, again, we kind of broke our own model and rules, because it's like, okay, well, here's a way that we can actually help. So what I really appreciate about it is that it hasn't been a formulaic approach of, okay, this is what we learned in school, or here's what you learn in Marketing 101. It's more rooted in, all right, here are the kids, here's how they're developing, and here's what each of us can bring to the table.
Great. So the name of the panel is Building Future Fans. That should give you a sense of where these two companies are right now and sort of how we work together. It seems like we were meant for each other in a lot of ways, right? But it's a crazy world out there, and habits are changing, and technology is changing how kids operate in the world. Let me start with the most fundamental question I can think of here. Tram and Jill, do you think that, how much do you think technology is changing storytelling for kids right now? There's different distribution platforms. Obviously, VR is coming. How much does this invade how you think about developing content for kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think how we're looking at it is actually in a very positive way. We've historically been focused on just a TV show, and again, because we really put artists at the core of that, they have so many ideas and so many things. We really build worlds in the shows that we make. But within that time frame, there's not a lot of space to be able to tell all the story. And I don't mean like a different ending. I mean who these characters are, where they come from, what they like, where they are. And now we've got these opportunities to use the different platforms to build those worlds out even further, create even more affinity for characters. It's really, I think we think of it less as a technology that we have to do something on, and we think of it more as other platforms to create more story and more character and build a richer experience and develop specific to those platforms. It's not just put a clip of the show on every platform. It's what is the pad experience? What is the phone experience? What is the digital experience? What is the gaming experience? What is the product experience? And it's actually opened up the possibilities with our creators to create more. So it's very exciting, actually, to think about that way. And we've been part of some extensive studies regarding plurals. We've heard lots of different names for them, Generation Z, whatever. We like the term plurals. And plurals want this. They expect it. If they love something, they want more of it and to know more about it and engage more in it. And it's a big focus of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely, I would echo that, and I think for us internally, we say a lot, kids don't think about digital and physical. You don't talk about digital and it's all the same thing to them. They're completely seamless, and they expect it to be there, and they get frustrated, honestly, if they can't access their favorite property in every single touch point that is relevant in their lives. So we're really trying to take that into consideration, and as Tram said, develop the right content for the right platform. And not just take everything that's exactly the same and try to blow it across every platform in the same manner. We really want to be able to give kids different but still rich experiences depending on the platform.
Great. Mike, have play patterns changed with kids? You guys are good students of developmental play patterns. Is technology changing? Are kids still kids fundamentally, or no, this technology is having an effect, or both?
Both. Kids are definitely still kids, but at least according to our research, things are definitely changing a lot. Especially in the realm of creativity, it's a little bit different now for a whole host of reasons, from schedules to what kids experience in school, et cetera, et cetera. Creativity seems to be sort of getting crowded out a little bit. And so, for example, a generation ago, you could put a blank sheet of paper in front of many kids and they would all know what to do with it. They'd all know how to fill it out. You could put a bowl of Lego bricks with no instructions in front of these kids and they would build amazing things. Increasingly, there's a pretty sizable percentage of kids who get freaked out by that, who don't know where to begin. And so now there's an element of, okay, how do we need to help these kids become more creative by not giving them a totally blank slate, but giving them some imagination starters and boosters and things like that. So that's just one example.
Huh.
It seems like also another interesting dynamic is that because video gaming is so pervasive right now, it's actually having a pretty big influence on how kids play overall. Things tend to be more achievement-oriented and around mastery of skills and around socialization and competition and those types of things. So those elements have sort of permeated many play patterns. So obviously, to kind of quote Wayne Gretzky, we've got to sort of skate to where the puck is going in that regard, right. As kids evolve in how they play.
And just to add to that, one of the important aspects of developing now for this generation is creating that space for them to contribute back to us. It's not a sort of a one-way street anymore. It's much more of a circle, and it's actually a really great thing when we get that kind of feedback and have kids post art based on art. We love it, and it's again all over our studio, the fan art and the kid art, and it's a thing again now. I think that this generation expects to be able to give back creatively to the things that creatively they love.
I think that's maybe one thing to just pile on is that the toy industry last year had a great year. It's coming off of probably its best year in over a decade. And I think a large part of it is driven by the fact that the worlds of media and play are starting to converge. And so whether or not it's getting kids the chance to go really, really deep on characters through binge viewing or whatever, or whether or not it's giving kids an audience through YouTube and other things to be able to create and see what other kids do. Unboxing videos, you can actually see an experience before you buy it, et cetera, et cetera. Those types of things I think have definitely really helped change the toy industry pretty significantly and for our business too.
Great. One thing we haven't talked about is that I just thought of sitting here. Another commonality between us is we have kid fans that are our core,
Yeah.
and then we also do have passionate adult fans. Maybe some are here. How do we bridge those two things? Sometimes they're convergent and sometimes they're divergent. So how do we approach both those audiences, which are very different but share a passion? We met. This is a stumper. I just threw this at them right now. They had no idea I was going to ask this. I had no idea I was going to ask that.
I can talk a little bit about how we approached
Yeah.
on the Lego movie,
Yeah, so good.
if that
Yeah.
helps.
Oh yeah, I saw that movie.
Yeah,
That was
you-
pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, it was fun. With the Lego movie, we had fantastic filmmakers on board who were very passionate about the Lego brand, but they did have quite an adult perspective. So our role as a Lego company was really always bringing them back to the kids, and remembering that as much as they wanted to make something that was very cool for their 32-year-old friends, it had to absolutely be relevant and appropriate for kids. And we have a tremendous responsibility as the Lego brand because parents trust us. I'm looking at the mom in the audience. They really trust us, and we wanted to ensure that we didn't only want to make a movie that was cool and relevant and entertained our filmmakers, but that really spoke to kids as well. So we found a great balance, and there are definitely things in the film that adults laugh out loud at, but they're not inappropriate. And I think there's sometimes a risk that some brands take that reach both audiences, that they can sometimes get a little bit into the inappropriate zone if you think about if you have a kid, what do you want your kid to see and experience? So for us, it was really kind of keeping kids at the core and at the center while making sure we had the elements that adults would really be entertained and were clever and smart.
Right. And by doing that, you reached all audiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that's great.
I think a key thing, though, that we've learned along the way is with both audiences, there's tremendous value in co-creating. And, we've done a lot of co-creation with adult fans, particularly with our Mindstorms, our robotics lines, and things like that, but also with kids as well. And so we've burned into a point right now where co-creation is a pretty big part of what we do.
Yeah, and just chipping in, I think we're also seeing a lot that parents want to experience things with their kids, and they want things that they can enjoy at the same time, and they're pretty hungry for that. So Lego really does tap into that. We see that time and again that this is something that the parents actually enjoy really doing with their kids, and they realize it has a bigger purpose as well.
Trem, how does it affect how you think?
I think, and based on the very nice reaction we just got, we're doing it. I think it comes from the fact that we, and just speaking as an executive and all the other executives there, our goal is not to tell anyone what to do, it's to guide them what to do. And I think that one of the reasons why it's working across the board is that compelling stories, good characters, genuine humor, and something that comes from a point of view as opposed to something that's been dictated to work for somebody, is why we have those two audiences. I think things that feel pure creatively tend to be the things that everybody can enjoy and find something about it that they like. But at no point do we ever say tone that up or tone that down or steer that toward this in the development process or whatever. Again, the people at our studio, they're so in touch with this place in between being a kid and being an adult, and I don't think things change much in terms of what we find entertaining. That things may be, the subject matter may change, but I think at its core, we make shows and content that is genuine and real and really funny and generally tends to be pretty brilliant at the same time in terms of the way it looks and the way that we talk about things, outside of just sort of a simple, cat eats mouse chase idea, although no offense to
That's
that
worked
either.
for about 70
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
so we still like that. So we're on the brink of a future, a brave new world. What competencies do our companies need to bring in that we don't have today? Or what sorts of people do we need to be looking for to bring in? Both of us have employees that stay around for a long time. So how do you get fresh perspective? How do you get new ideas into our companies?
Go ahead.
No,
No, I think one of the things I sort of referenced it in a question the other day, or earlier in the day, as it relates to people who can make sense of what's going on and make sense of the world. Even it's not really even joking about liberal arts grads and what's going on there. It's actually, we've started to lean into that group as a source of talent now because, essentially what we need much more than technical skills right now are people who can take a look at where the world is going, take data points from many different disciplines, synthesize them, come up with a storyline around what's going on there, and then come up with a recommendation on what to do about it. The reality is if you have a degree in marketing, let's say, there's a lot of stuff that you're learning now that's probably going to be obsolete in a few years. So the real trick here is not that technical knowledge isn't relevant, it's more how you think, and are you ultimately able to bring people in who are curious enough about what's going on in the outside world to make sense out of it, and then chart a course or at least inspire discussion around how to react and be agile. I think there's also an element that we're candidly dealing with right now as it relates to, as we scale up our organization, what's the right mix between internal hires and external hires? And I'm not sure that we've totally cracked the code on that. There's a need, and sort of the math will tell you that we can't hire from within completely. We have to source from the outside. But there's some interesting questions there as it relates to, which jobs do you hire from the outside for? What kind of skills? What kind of mindset do you need? So that's sort of an evolution, I think, that we're going through.
And I think we'll continue to work with partners like you guys, who
Yeah.
are experts in a certain area,
Right.
and really try to find the best and the brightest people to work with. And for me, the people, and I've been around a long time, but the ones who are always most successful for Lego are people that have a real passion for the brand
Yeah.
and believe in what the brand stands for ultimately at the end of the day. Again, I don't know if that sounds cheesy, but
Yeah.
if you talk to Lego people, there is a real belief that you are doing something good in this world. And I think that's, why a lot of it's fun, it's great. Most of us don't get to build with bricks all day like Chris does. We have to read contracts and do boring things too, but you really feel like it drives you, and being driven by that are the people who ultimately I think are long-term successful in the company.
Great.
And I would say that obviously people are at the core, but it's also the way that we do things, the system in which this works. Again, there isn't this notion anymore of first we do this and then we'll do all this other stuff. Now we're doing this all at once. And it's very important to make sure that everybody knows how to work in that environment, communicate in that environment, what the core of what you're doing is clear, so then all of the iterations of it all match. And it's very different than how we used to do it. And there's been some growing pains, and and again, not in the sense of like people jumping in wanting to be involved, but almost like, well, we're supposed to wait until this other thing is done, and we're sort of not operating that way anymore. And it's actually really exciting because everybody now gets to feel much more ownership to what we're developing and how we're developing it. And we're actually creating brilliant stuff out of it. And again, even with the Mixels, situation is a very different way for partners to work with each other. And we ended up creating something really terrific that ended up working for all of us in a sense, and was very collaborative. And again, the relationship that we had allowed that to happen in a really strong way. So I definitely think you need the people, but you also have to refine those systems in which those people work and
Yeah.
operate.
Actually, maybe if I could just pile on to one other thing, because I think that this is the case for both of our organizations. People also, I think, there's a higher premium being paid on those people who can think outside of their own context. So how coherent can you think? So in other words, you're not just optimizing for your own little thing. You're really actually thinking about the decisions that you make and the ripple effect that they can have on other people, whether or not that's other people internally or with partners, to make sure that, again, there's mutual value being created there. We've actually had a tough time, to be honest, as we're screening people who have come in from very kind of large, top-down bureaucratic organizations who tend to operate in silos. That's been really challenging for us. And so the question here is, can you come sort of pre-wired for collaboration and coherence?
That sounds like a good way to end our formal presentation, because that's the theme of the whole thing. We have...
Not done yet, though.
No, we have 15 minutes for questions, Chris. And then at the end of which, Chris will ask a trivia question of the audience, and the first person to answer has to figure out how to get this thing home. It's beautiful, Chris. It's looking awesome.
Getting there.
So I guess please line up over here with questions, and we will try our level best to answer honestly. Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna ask this question more as a parent. I'm a parent of 3 kids, 2 to 7. great. We're definitely a Lego family. Big shows of the show from Cartoon Network. But I was kind of interested in a comment made here about how kids can start from a blank piece of paper, can start from a bowl of Legos, and I find that very disconcerting. And so, how can this partnership make the future fan go back to the old fan that has that power of creativity?
We're actually, we just talked, go ahead, Joe. We were just talking about it. Go. Don't give away anything, but
No,
go.
no. I think you're hitting on something that's really core to both of us, and you heard all of the panelists talking about creativity. It's so inherent in both companies that we were just this week in conversations about what should we be doing together in the future, and this whole idea about how do we facilitate creativity in kids and really build that up. Lego and Cartoon Network coming together because we both feel that it's such an important topic, and we need we need our kids of the future. As Mike said, Lego's mission is to develop the builders of tomorrow, and we mean that both literally and figuratively, and that's just such a cornerstone that, so we are starting some conversations about what could we be doing, so watch this space.
A bit smaller. Hi, my name's Alina. I work for a media agency in the UK, and YouTube for Kids has obviously just launched within our market, and I was wondering if you've seen it kind of taking any effect on your channels, if it's kind of stolen share from linear TV viewing, or do you see it as a competitor?
No, we think that it's different viewing habits. We think that when something works, it works across all platforms. So and we don't get dinged by that, by it being on other platforms. And we think that consuming YouTube is different than watching TV. It's a different kind of consumption habit that didn't exist before YouTube. But there's a lot of viewership going there. There definitely is. And it's always tricky to know what to put out there to sample and what not to put out there. But it's not an existential threat, we don't think. Okay. Having good stuff is saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
Hi there. It seems like over the last year or so, Lego collaborations have taken a whole new direction with Lego Dimensions and Doctor Who and Scooby-Doo and The Wizard of Oz and all these areas that sort of seem maybe inspired from the Lego movie onwards. Your collaborative nature has taken a whole new direction. A sort of two-part question. How are you finding managing so many different partners and people you're working with? And in regards to the Lego ideas, is there any particular new Lego set that you would love to see?
The partner management one I can maybe speak to, and I can say my team has grown a lot in the past couple of years because it is complicated. And again, I think we try to find the right partners and set up the right understanding with them. We really take a lot of time in communicating with them about the Lego values and why we create things the way we do, and that does really help in the process. But yes, it does require a few extra arms and legs to deal with the partners. And then in terms of the second part of the...
Actually, maybe just to pile onto that one, I will tell you candidly, I think that we're chasing to keep up with the level of complexity of the partnerships that we have right now. We're fortunate that we've got very, very strong sort of mutual dependency in many of these cases, but we're scaling fairly quickly. And so there's still a lot that goes with how do we orchestrate appropriately around these partners? How do we continue to live our partner promise of stronger mutual value creation? Because I don't know that, the way that we've been working with partners over the last, let's say, 3 to 4 years is necessarily what's going to serve those partners in the best way. So it's a work in progress, candidly. As it relates to Lego ideas, actually, that's a really good kind of reminder that there was one thing that we can share that's coming out that is a collaboration here, or continues the collaboration, I would say.
So if we can switch to, So is this final? Is that final product? I can't tell.
It's not the final product.
Oh, it's not? Oh.
But yes, we just announced yesterday that Lego Idea has moved forward with doing an Adventure Time set. We can't tell you anything more other than we're going to be doing it. We don't know what it looks like yet, but we're super excited. And again, yes.
And maybe some context for those of you who don't know, Lego Ideas is essentially a fan crowdsourced medium. So people can actually submit ideas for Lego sets that they'd like to see. And this one was extremely popular in the ranking there. So,
Hi guys, is this okay? Thank God. Sorry, every microphone's touching in a different way this weekend. About the process of creating the shows and all the content built around these different Lego sets, I'd love to hear a little more about how potentially heavily the history of trying to create content around a certain, thank you, thoughtful, around a certain toy brand may have played into creating Ninjago and even especially Mixels. When we were looking at all that stuff, at the face value, as you guys were talking about, I was like, I think I've seen this somewhere before. And I couldn't help but snap back to my childhood when I was collecting Bionicles like there was no tomorrow. And you know, looking back at that, it seemed like they had something really great going on for a while as they were trying to create the movies and trying to create this whole world, trying to create the comics and all this stuff. And eventually it just kind of disappeared, and I thought maybe it was just kind of like they were losing touch with their fan base or something like that. So did any of that really play into trying to create Lego Atlantis, Ninjago, especially Mixels? Or was it just kind of the realization from the last few years that people really need something, really need a show that's very character driven?
Yeah, no, I can share with you, you know, as a company, we did, during the time frame Mike said, where we almost went bankrupt, we did lose focus in some way. So Bionicle is a great example of where we kind of interjected story and characters into a Lego theme, and it worked pretty well. But we also did some things that didn't work quite so well. So we kind of went through a phase where we really thought, you know what, this isn't the right path for the Lego company. We should really be focusing more on just our core area that we know and we do well. And we stopped really kind of working within that space. But what kept happening is people kept calling. I was in California, so they kept calling me. And with ideas about, gee, Lego, you know, isn't there something that could be interesting here? And then we really looked at, again, what the fans wanted. And then came back at it, and what we did more, I think, in the second time was really focus on the Lego core values and the Lego IP and aesthetic, and tried to make that core to what we were doing, whereas we kind of had a different track the first time we went into the area. So we tried to take the lessons and then adapt from there.
Mm-hmm. And I would just add again, is like I said, our response to Mixels is because we saw characters made out of Lego bricks. It wasn't an action feature on a toy or some sort of hook like that. It was like, wow, look at these amazing looking characters that actually can create more characters and combine characters, you know. But we all thought about it. The first thing we saw were characters. What's that guy's name? What does he do? Where do they live? Everything about Mixels that we developed, that was first and foremost. Again, reacting off, we see content here, you know, not just something to do.
Hello, my name is Monica. I work for the Scandinavian video service Viaplay. And you mentioned that parents really trust the Lego brand. So I was curious to know how you've succeeded with that.
How we've succeeded establishing the trust?
Exactly.
Yeah, I can start. You can chip in, but you know, I think it all comes down to the quality of what we do. And I think if you talk to any Lego employee, they talk about the quality, and we have a philosophy within our company that only the best is good enough, especially when it comes to children. So I think, you know, over the 90 years the company has been around, and I think we've always delivered and demonstrated that. And I think also parents understand, again, what the Lego brand brings to their child.
Yeah, maybe the only thing I could add to that is that I think it's our attempt to live it, not to say it. And so it's to basically prove, you know, our call center, as an example, if you want to call the 800 number for Lego, you know, it's based, it's not outsourced. It's actually a critical part of our company. It costs us a fortune relative to probably what other companies do, but we see it as a critical part of the overall brand experience. And so it's essentially, to Jill's point, saying only the best is good enough here. And what does that mean throughout every single touch point that we have with consumers and families?
Thank you.
Yep.
Mine's about content creation, and you said you're always looking to update and keep fresh your content. And I'm just wondering how the process and relationship works from an idea generating. Is it something more Cartoon Network proposes these ideas, or does Lego have an ask and an inspiration and they kind of present that, or how does that relationship work?
Kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll come with kind of, here's something that we're doing, and present, this is kind of what's new within our slate of content. And then sometimes, these guys will be talking to us. And I think Mixels also came around because some of the input coming from you guys was, like, we'd like to do something more comedy based versus just sort of the action comedy genre.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there is no one straight system in place for how to do this. You know, it all starts with a good idea, good thinking. That's the core to everything we do.
Hi, my name is Sai. I work for a mobile app design and development company. So my question is as a parent. So I have a 9-year-old daughter. She does the Lego workshops. She loves playing with the blocks all the time. But when it comes to mainstream content, I feel that it's more skewed towards boys, be it the Lego movie or the Ninjago. She loves Lego and Friends, and she kind of watch it over and over again. But on iTunes, if I were to give her a choice, she could either buy the Lego movie or the latest Barbie movie. She would always choose the latest Barbie movie. So my question is that what's the content roadmap to engage girls more?
Yes, we are definitely working on content specifically targeting, or that will be more inclusive to girls, I should say. And we tried hard with the Lego movie, and we feel like we do have a strong female character in that, and that was very purposeful. A couple, and Unikitty as well, which we know girls love Unikitty. And yes, everyone's laughing. So watch that space as well too for the future. We're looking into doing some with Unikitty, but trying to make sure that we're inclusive, and we're also looking at the content overall. And I think even if we know a lot of girls like Ninjago because there is one of the ninjas is a girl. So we're trying to make sure as we're developing the content to always remember that we want to make it engaging for both girls and boys.
All right, we have 6 minutes left. We have 3 people with questions, and then we have to give this thing away. So let's go. We can do it.
Yeah, quick question for me. I don't have children, so I have to say I still play with Lego myself.
Yay.
Awesome. Excellent.
Do you watch cartoons? Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's other things that I don't want to mention, and that's something that I want to bring up.
That's
as
a
well.
different room.
Yeah, is there something you've encountered and you said, no, we're definitely gonna not do that? Is there something that really said never ever in that direction?
Yes. There's been quite a lot of things. You could probably still find them online somewhere, but generally we try to stick to things again, knowing that the parents trust us. So we won't do anything tied to an R-rated movie or an M-rated game. Yeah. So those are kind of for us where we want, as parents, I'm a parent, I want to make sure that the things would be appropriate for my kids. So that's some of the things, and even things that are kind of could be a little borderline. We've kind of shied away and erred a little bit more conservatively.
And I have to say, on our end, our creators, they believe in what they do so much, and it's so heartfelt. These are not people trying to get away with anything. There's not. There's people like to look for hidden messages and stuff like that, but I'm telling you, these guys, they're our creators. That is not where any of them are at all.
Thanks. I was really interested. My name is Alexandra Samuel. I'm a tech researcher, and I was interested to hear your observation of how video games are affecting the way kids play, but also that for kids that sort of line between digital and physical is no longer so meaningful. But I'm curious, since you obviously have to get parents to actually hand over the money, how you deal with those parents, and about a third of parents are actively trying to limit their kids' screen time, and I wonder if you've thought about managing the risk, those sort of brand risk to Lego is something that is so beloved of by many parents who want to keep their kids away from games. How you try and sort of differentiate those markets.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I would say that the main brief that we have with any of these sort of entertainment content, be it a movie, a video game, anything, is to ultimately drive people to the core building brick experience. Otherwise, the world probably doesn't need another television show or another movie or another video game just for the sake of launching those things. And to Jill's point before, we're a play company. We're not an entertainment company. And so the whole notion here is how do we ultimately create these experiences that can inspire kids to actually build? So really that's the end game here. Now, there are definitely going to be some parents who really don't want the screen time at all. And obviously Lego is as analog as it gets in that regard. But for those, in fact, the majority of families who are sort of in this hybrid space, we hope that Lego can be a little bit of an antidote where it's like, it is digital and it is screen time, but it would hopefully help convert into an analog experience.
Thank you.
Yep.
I work for a movie theater that historically has catered to adults, so we don't allow unaccompanied minors, we serve alcohol, and we recently decided it's not so much about whether you're an adult or not, but really whether or not you're going to respect the movie-going experience. And so as we start to look at content and that kind of thing, do you have any thoughts on understanding what kind of content kids are looking for?
Yeah, it's every day of our lives. And again, like I said, we've been involved in some research studies that sort of helped. I mean, I will say that we've never made any decisions based on what's trending. So we're never going to be like, let's make a skateboarding hip hop dog show. Like it's not really what we do. But what we do listen to is sort of how they want to engage and what engages them. And I think what's interesting, back to the question earlier about girls and boys, what we're seeing is those lines in terms of what kids find entertaining are getting very not specific. Good storytelling, good characters are compelling no matter what, and nothing has to really be tailored in a way. So for us, just on that side, our main goal is this something we're all proud to be associated with and put our names on? And that's really how we're deciding what content is.
It gets back to the quality. I mean, it really comes back to the quality of the content. And kids want to be delighted and surprised in their movie viewing experience as well, too. It was something that they haven't seen before.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that ends the questions. Now let's give a round of applause to Chris, who has completed this masterwork. Oh, last piece. I think it's upside down. No.
Got to start over.
Yeah. Great. Okay, Chris, how do we want to give this away? Do you have a question?
I think we have a question. How about a trivia question here for this? Oh, we got trivia. All right. So here's the deal. If you don't want it, don't put your hand up, first of all. It is big. You're going to have to take it home because I'm not taking it on the plane with me. So how about this? We'll make it a Cartoon Network / Lego question. Let's start with this. I'm going to start on this side of the room, work my way across. Just raise your hand. I want to know the name of this character right here. The name of this character.
Lloyd is correct. Yes, that is too easy, apparently. Yes, you are the winner. What's your name? Emma? Everyone give Emma a nice round of applause. Really nice.
Panelists, thank you guys for doing this, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good one.